Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll talk about Ag Day and why this event is so important in Washington, D.C. Plus, we see how Corteva Agriscience is combining fertility and weed control into one product to help you create more productive pastures for your cattle.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kate Maher. We're celebrating National Ag Day, which offers a chance to say thanks to the farmers and ranchers that provide food and fiber for the world, all while preserving and protecting the resources in their care. We asked Ethan Lane, NCBA's Vice President of Government Affairs, to tell us what Ag Day means in Washington, D.C.
Well, for all of us who work for farmers and ranchers across the country, we kind of feel like every day is National Ag Day because every day we take a break to eat or wear clothing that comes from our farmers and ranchers across the country. But it's always important when the powers that be here in Washington take a moment to officially recognize National Ag Day. And it's critical that we hear those voices that don't often speak about the challenges that our farmers and ranchers across the country face, but also what they provide us. And National Ag Day is that opportunity for the decision makers in Washington to do just that.
Although this Ag Day finds our nation's cow herd at a historic low, Dr. Clay Mathis of Texas A&M says there are profit opportunities available for producers in the months ahead.
Well, increasing producer profitability remains a key priority for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and each year here at CattleCon, Cattlemen's College is designed to do exactly that. And here in Orlando, Florida this year, one of the presenters was Texas A&M University's Dr. Clay Mathis. And Dr. Mathis, it's no secret, I mean, these past couple of years have been very challenging for America's cattle producers, especially those that have faced severe drought and herd liquidation. But you told this audience here in Florida, with some challenges, that also presents some opportunities.
That's right. You know, probably about 60% of the nation's cow herd, at least, has experienced some drought, and so those producers have been in a tough situation. And many of them have reduced their cow numbers. And the good news is we're getting some moisture. We're getting some moisture, and prices are good. And when we add moisture and prices are good, you know, the driver of that is the number of cows in the country is low, and so that means we've got an opportunity. And so the idea that we talked about today is how do we think through rebuilding this cow herd? So on an individual producer level, there's big decisions to be made. Do we buy back the same kind of genetics? Do we try to grow into it slowly? And then the question of, is the production system that we've had in place all these years, is that really the best production system to capitalize on the opportunities going forward?
Well, of course, each operation's a little bit different, but I mean, we could spend all day on this topic, but, you know, what are one or two tips that, you know, would fit for, you know, cattle producers near and far?
Well, I think that when we think about what makes a cost-effective or a profitable production system, we need to think about those biggest expense categories, and those being labor and feed costs and depreciation of both equipment and livestock. And so when we think about trying to find leverage to improve the production system as we rebuild, focusing on those three areas is likely where you find some opportunities.
And lastly, Dr. Mathis, I mean, you know, regardless of where you're at on the U.S. beef cattle supply chain, doesn't it all truly start with the mother cow?
You know, and it starts even below that with the soil and the grass, and yeah, it's a mother cow. That's a factory that starts producing the calf that moves through our supply chain, and so we've got to make great decisions there. We've had tremendous genetic improvement over the last couple of decades, and we should probably expect that occurs again. But I think as producers look at these opportunities again, to be really thoughtful about what makes the production system for them to achieve their goals for the future.
Absolutely. Well, indeed. Well, we appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Again, one of the presenters here at CattleCon 24, Dr. Clay Mathis with Texas A&M University. And of course, lots of useful information as always here at Cattlemen's College and CattleCon. And again, one of the best resources out there for cattle producers right in their own communities is that university extension personnel.
Now, a great way to support your business and your fellow cattle producers is by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Remember to use the promo code C2C and you'll get a special gift just for our viewers. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we've got a look at a great product that can provide pasture, weed control, and fertilization in one easy step. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Weather Watch, it's almost here. In this week's Weather Watch, we're going to be chatting about this transition from El Nino to La Nina, how quickly it may be, and what that moisture and temperature profile may look like for this spring.
Weeds will rob me of my investments. The weeds are not palatable to cows. They will not eat them, or if they do eat them, some of them may be toxic. So there's a return on investment by allowing there to be more grass available to be grazed by the cattle.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There are big benefits to being a member. You'll get industry news in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus discounts just for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
If you're looking for the best in cattle industry news, information, and education, then don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Each week we cover important topics such as herd health and cattle handling, plus updates with congressional and industry leaders about today's top policy issues, and stories shot on location at cattle farms and ranches around the country. Don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV and on YouTube.
Farmers and ranchers are always looking for ways to improve in order to ensure the long-term success of their operations. Here's a look at a Florida farm that is growing better grass thanks to a time-saving product from Corteva.
On the Tombstone Cattle Company in North Florida, they can graze their stocker cattle nearly year-round. That means taking care of the grass is a critical part of their profit picture.
Year in, year out, every day we have to manage the pastures properly to make a profit. If we're not doing that, we're not making a profit.
One way the team at Tombstone gets the most productivity from their pastures is with a combined application of both fertilizer and herbicide. It's a service offering from Corteva called Ultigraze Pasture Weed and Feed.
The beauty of Ultigraze is it gives us the flexibility to do a custom fertilizer blend for every single pasture and still get that herbicide application. So whatever your needs are fertility-wise, you get that blend that you need from the fertilizer and still get the herbicide application in one.
We first learned about Ultigraze with our hay fields, and we use that product in our hay fields to keep them cleaned up and especially the broadleaf. When we started the cattle operation, we had a terrible problem with weeds, pigweed and stuff like that, and so we started using it then to clean those up.
Ultigraze saves time and money because it's a one-pass option. Traditionally, people would spread fertilizer and then come back whenever they have a weed problem and spray Graze on or spray Duracor. This gives them the option of doing a one-pass deal. They can put the fertilizer on out at one time. They're killing the weeds before they have a problem.
Mayo Ag Products has been offering Ultigraze to customers in North Florida and South Georgia since 2019. Blending the fertilizer with the herbicide takes place in a tender dedicated to range and pasture use right alongside the field where the dry fertilizer will be applied.
Ultigraze has absolutely changed the game as far as weed control and pasture management and fertility goes. Not only is it convenient, not only does it save the producer money, but it also opens up pastures that we could have never treated before, whether just due to the condition of the pasture, that it's extremely rough, or the proximity to other crops. Suddenly we're able to have this new offering that it's convenient, it's money saving, and it's opening up a whole new world of pastures that we weren't able to improve before.
Before Ultigraze, we would do different things, such as we were mowing the property on a regular basis. We were coming in and trying to spray on pastures that had bull holes and uneven, and it's really difficult to spray. Now with Ultigraze, we can get a fertilizer put out in an even manner and a herbicide put out in an easy manner, as opposed to trying to spray on a rough field.
The nice thing about Ultigraze is it really opens up our window on the parameters that make it a perfect day to get a herbicide out. Perhaps on a day like today, we wouldn't have really wanted to come in and spray because it's so windy. However, when we're making the fertilizer application with the herbicide, it doesn't affect it. We can still get in here, make the most out of a sunny day today to get a herbicide down, and we're not shut down like we would be perhaps with the spray rig.
Applying fertilizer alone does help grow more pounds of grass, but also grows more pounds of weeds. Ultigraze provides the one-pass, better grass option for both fertilizer and weed control that lasts.
The mindset of most producers is, I want to fertilize and kill weeds later. Well, as spring comes along and as it's warming up, the weeds are already there. To where if you put out Ultigraze, you're getting ahead of the weeds and putting the fertilizer out at the right time.
So a giant part of Ultigraze is the residual chemistry that Corteva brings to the table. And when we think about coming out in the early spring, when it's the ideal time to fertilize, we may not be seeing a lot of those weeds yet, but they're there, they're small, and they'll continue to germinate through the summer. So when we can come in and get those, not only are we killing the weeds that are already there, but we're also laying down a residual that's going to buy us control throughout the summer months, because that chemistry is already laid down and doing what it's supposed to do, which is keep new weeds from germinating.
Ultigraze pasture weed and feed is available through a network of certified applicators in multiple states. And the experience of producers, such as Carl Allison, demonstrates that Ultigraze is a convenient way to grow more grass for their cattle.
I just don't see how you can maintain pastures without Ultigraze. You can't keep the weeds out in a more efficient way than using Ultigraze.
Whatever your goals are, good fertility and good weed management are going to push you closer to the finish line. So whether you're fertilizing a hayfield and need to control the weeds to put up more bales, or whether you need to get rid of those weeds so you can get another calf on that acre, Ultigraze is going to help you get to that goal.
To learn more about the benefits of combining weed control and fertilizer, and find your local certified Ultigraze retailer, visit the website ultigraze.com/C2C. From Lake City, Florida, I'm Brad Buller reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
When we come back, we've got a look at a great company that has been making high-quality floats and valves for more than 3 decades. Stay with us.
You work hard to feed your herd and maintain your property. John Deere 6 Series tractors give you choices that fit your operation. 6E tractors are simple and easy to use around your ranch. See all the angles when moving snow or maneuver easily in tight spots with 6M tractors. Get more power and premium comfort with 6R tractors. Mixing feed, weighing bales, and loading goods have never been easier with new loader technologies on 6Rs. Ask your John Deere dealer to learn more.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Are you concerned about the impact government policies could have on your cattle business? One way to make your voice heard in Washington is by joining NCBA. When you join, you'll be part of the nation's oldest and largest national cattle industry organization that has a professional team working in Washington, D.C. on issues that matter to cattle-producing families nationwide. Don't stay on the sidelines. Make your voice heard by joining NCBA today at the website ncba.org.
Time now for Weather Watch with meteorologist Matt Makins.
Time now for the Weather Watch. Matt Makins here. I hope it finds you doing well. And this week we're going to be chatting about some of these spring options we may see, or what's most likely to play out. Temperature-wise, precip-wise, whenever we go from a strong El Nino through neutral into a strong La Nina, there's a transition that occurs, obviously. Totally flip around the precip patterns, the temperature patterns. So we're going from one extreme into the other within about a year's time. In fact, it may even be less than a year time from going from a strong El Nino to a strong La Nina. But the speed of this transition will be critical to know how quickly we're going to either dry out or get water in or warm up or start to cool off, whatever the case may be. So we really have to button up on the details for the speed of getting from one extreme to the other. And with that, what are most similar transitions from El Nino to La Nina? Not all of the transitions, but the most similar ones to how this one has been playing out so far. And that's what we have for spring, summer, and fall. So these maps represent those most similar transitional periods, and you can see how we warm up progressively from spring, summer, into fall, and precipitation we take from the south, spread it out in the summer, and then really dry things out for the southern states by the fall. Let's get a little bit more specific now. You can look at just the spring maps here. These maps are based on, those best fit years together. Maybe there were some extremes. And there were a couple of very wet extremes for Texas. The overall frequency, if you will, of how frequently wet was that same area, not frequently for Texas. More frequently into the northern states. So let's boil it down into the most probable cases here. All right, I've taken those clumps of best fit years. I've looked at them. I've seen the outlier years that were either super wet or super dry, factored that in, and just looked at kind of what the frequency was of moisture in areas and combined that into these two maps. So my outlook for precipitation during March to May, it does favor areas still out by California, into the Great Basin, into the central and northern plains, a less of a wet impact for Texas. Temperature-wise, kind of shifted all that cooler stuff to the west and southwest with warmth for most of the eastern half of the country. So there is your spring outlook, side by side, precip and temperatures. Until the next time, Matt Makins here.
There's nothing worse than water tanks that run over, creating a muddy mess. And with me now is somebody who can solve that problem, Bill Watson of Watson Float Valves in Nebraska. Bill, thanks for coming today. Tell us a little bit about the background of your company.
Well, we started out as a family welding, machining shop, and sometimes people just bring to you different ideas that they're like, hey, can you make us something to help make this part better for us? And it just kind of rolled into it from that, and we've gotten where we are today based on that.
So how long have you been in this business? And tell folks where these things are actually made and manufactured.
As a welding shop, we've been in business well over 30 years now. The floats and the valves are just a little over 30 years that we've been making those and steadily making improvements. It's changed a little bit since then. And we're in Nebraska is where we're based out of, so it's a lot of farm and ranch territory there, so we get a lot of first-hand experience with that.
They're great products. I have a couple on my tire tanks, as we mentioned. I'm curious, tell folks what makes these really unique and different.
That they're still made out of steel, stainless steel, brass, aluminum, actual metal materials. There's so many valve manufacturers out there now that have gone to plastic and things that ice can kind of break them up, animals chewing on them, things like that, and we've stuck with the metal type product.
That makes a difference. And you and I were talking briefly before the show about some improvements you've made, even one of the arms that I was unaware of in my own system, but talk to folks about some of the improvements that have been driven by the needs of cattlemen.
Well, we still believe in hot dip galvanizing. It's Galvanizing kind of gets a bad rap because if it just comes off as zinc plated, it's not necessarily as thick as hot dip galvanizing, but we still like our hot dip galvanized line. However, some areas really do need stainless steel, so we've really grown into the stainless steel end of things to help make better improvements on corrosion resistance.
And the other thing, depending on state regulations and so forth, there are some folks that have anti-siphon needs. Tell folks what that is and what you've done to accommodate that.
What that is instead of a valve actually being inside the tank, where if your well shuts off, the water could maybe siphon back in, the valve is actually above it. We call it an air gap. And so we have that option. If the water happens to shut off, there's no way it can siphon back in because the plumbing is not in contact with the water tank itself.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, for coming on the show and sharing with us a little insight about your float valves. And if you'd like more information about Watson float valves, you can go to watsonfloatvalve.com.
Still to come, we'll tell you about a product that will help optimize the health and productivity of your cattle. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Our cattle don't take any days off. They need food and water every day. There's been generations now taking care of this line of genetics. And it only takes one big screw up for that to go away. And that heavy burden is something that every cattleman feels. Otherwise, all that work that my grandparents did, my great-grandparents did, my parents have done can come to an end.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
It can be tough to keep up with all the issues that impact the beef cattle business. That's why NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is dedicated to bringing you valuable news, information, and education. The goal is to give you the knowledge you need to make the best decisions for your operation. So if you're looking for in-depth coverage of the beef industry and the issues that matter to you, don't miss Cattlemen to Cattlemen, debuting every week on RFD TV and on YouTube. You have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
Cattle producers are always looking for the best ways to enhance weight gain in their livestock without compromising quality. We've got a look at a company that provides innovative feed solutions to help producers achieve their goals.
First McNess is a national company. We've been around a long time. We manufacture and sell commercial feeds. We sell feed ingredients as well as customized consultation services to farmers and ranchers. We have a long legacy of working with producers and helping them with their operations.
At CattleCon 24 in Orlando, First McNess hosted an event to launch a new line of beef nutrition products. Cattlemen to Cattlemen had the chance to hear the news directly from the company's president and CEO, Mark Peschel.
We are very excited to introduce our new Legacy Forward beef products. We believe that this is going to be an opportunity for us to bring new technologies to cattlemen, to bring technologies that will help them build their own legacy, that will help them be successful, and will also help them solve challenges and opportunities they have in their operations. And our Prime Force product is a prime example of that. But it's a product that we felt had application in ruminants, in particular in beef, as we were looking for solutions during the last 60 days of feeding that would improve carcass weight, that would improve live weight, but wouldn't have a negative impact on the quality of the meat. such as marbling. And we found that to be the case with Prime Force. Producers can expect to see a good return for their investment in the product. They will find that it will be an easy product for them to handle and feed. It's a product where they don't have to worry about withdrawals because it's an all-natural product. And if they happen to be in an all-natural feeding program, it's going to fit very nicely for them in their operation.
Peschel says First McNess takes the long view, aiming to provide farmers and ranchers with feed and mineral products that will help them build success across generations.
We have a long legacy, but we also know that our customers, particularly those that are farmers and ranchers, are also working to build their legacy. They're thinking about how they're going to turn over their operations to their next generation. And so it's important that we bridge that gap, that we're able to meet the needs of the current producers, ranchers, farmers, but that we also are bringing technologies to market that will benefit their heirs, their successors, their legacy. So we also bear that in mind. Can they afford what we're bringing them? And can we do that in a way that's easy to apply? But what it really drives us to do is to look at innovation, look at ways that we can improve as a company, but also improve on what we're delivering to the industry. Because it's not our legacy that's the important one, it's the legacy of our customers, it's the legacy of farmers and ranchers. And if we can help them advance that legacy, then I think we've done a pretty good job.
For more than a century, First McNess has delivered customized, high-quality feed and ingredients. To learn more about their full lineup of products, visit the website mcness.com. That wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.